That makes sense.
So, it's a new week. We missed a week because, one asshole decided he wanted to go to Cuba, so he left us high and dry. Especially he was high and dry. He was not, dealing with, crappy winter weather. I say as it wasn't actually that bad in the last week. But hey, it's fine. Either way, he was a jerk for leaving us. And then obviously, it's close to Christmas. I mean, as this episode comes out, we'll be just a few more days before the holidays. The weeks start getting busier. I mean, company Christmas parties are happening. Family get-togethers are happening. So we did miss a week. We do apologize for that. But we're here. And I'm going to start off with what I was going to say when we were going to do last week's episode, but I didn't get the chance to do it. Good Lord, I feel so bad for Horizon Forbidden West after the Game Awards. Jesus, they got... The amount of awards that I'm like, okay, one of them's got to at least go to them, and then it was God of War again, or Elden Ring again. I'm like, oh my god, Horizon, I feel so bad for you.
Horizon's used to being overshadowed. That's this whole shtick.
Yeah, it really is.
It was nothing out of the ordinary, but still, it hurt a little bit. I'm not saying it deserved all of those awards. I'm just saying you couldn't have just given them one? You think God of War had enough? I mean, I recently did a restream run for the Final Fantasy Randomizer, and there's 12 characters, and I renamed all the characters based on the awards. So like half of them were named God of War, like a third of them were like named Elden Ring, and then I had like 2 Final Fantasy 14s and a Stray, because that's just literally all that it felt like was there. Every award came, I'm like, all right, something different. God of War. I'm like, nope. Okay, fine. Okay, I give up. It's just gonna be Dad of War the entire show.
Passion 4.
I mean, not to say it didn't deserve it. They certainly got it good. I mean, I'm so glad that Genshin Impact also won the Player's Choice after all of that memery that was happening. So that was great.
Yeah. Ooh, hashtag Sonic Frontiers.
Slight disappointment. Speaking of disappointment, welcome to the PixelPlay Podcast, everybody. My name is Adam, aka CS Radical. Kaylan with me, Chris with me. No, that was if you want to make jokes about my segueing skills, go right ahead.
Do it when you introduce me. Just go.
All right. Well, like I said, Kaylan's here. Oh no, that's Chris. I'm pointing the wrong way. I'm still pointing the wrong way. Kaylan is here. Chris is here.
Of all the ways that you could have segued in, you waited until that way to introduce those two people.
I do my best, only my best on this show. That is all I can give to you guys.
That's all I can give to you guys.
Adam, I know you work in customer service, but what you really need to get into is sales. This whole under-promising, over-delivering is perfectly done for sales.
I have joked around that I need to start doing random advertisements in my own videos. So, like, for example, one of the key items in Final Fantasy IV is the package. And because I'm such a MeUndies shill, I keep wanting to joke that every time I play the game and I get the package and I have to check it, I have to go, this package check was brought to you by MeUndies. It's one of those things that, like, it's funny enough, me and a couple of friends were joking yesterday that how much would we actually do? How much money would it take for us to do a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship? And I said, honestly, not that much, because I could meme the heck out of that without any issue and not feel bad about it, because it's become such a meme at this point that if Raid Shadow Legends actually came to us and said, hey, $500, advertise us on our show, I'd be like, sure thing, guys, no problem.
Whoa. Well, when you said very little and then you said $500, I'm thinking even lower. If they're like, hey guys, we'll send you some pizza, I'd be like, yeah, I'm kind of down for that.
I'm 100%. If we each get a pizza, I'm down. Yeah. That's it. 3 pizzas. They are not going to fucking one pizza. No, we each get a pizza.
How much would it cost for us to rename the podcast Raid Shadow Legends if they came up to us and said, okay, we need you to rename your show Raid Shadow Legends?
3 pizzas. We already know the cost.
Just 3 pizzas?
I would step up that it would just not have to be like pizza.
Yeah. Good pizza.
I like it.
We're gonna have to upping the offer because we got
to up to at least Gino's Pizza.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Gino's Pizza.
Canadian pizzas. No, so many people are like, what the hell were these guys talking about?
So I went to school in Hamilton, and Gino's Pizza was like a staple of like. No one goes to Gino's Pizza before 1 a.m. Like, nobody goes there before 1 a.m. Great.
So
it's also like the same thing. Like every school kid knows when Pizza Day comes up on Friday. It's not like a chain pizza, but it's always like some Italian name.
Oh, it's great. Like the greasy the good pizza for me is really bad pizza. Like you want that greasy.
Oh yeah.
Like cheese is slipping off the pizza kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, you know a sign of a good pizza is when you take one bite and you go, I'm gonna hate myself tonight, and you're just like, nailed it.
Pizza when the napkin it's sitting on gets like translucent from the grease. That's good pizza.
That's it. Not that it's even on top of the pizza. It's literally underneath the bread that should have absorbed all the grease.
Yeah.
The gravitational pull of the grease is so much so that it just starts greasing the napkin, even though it's not even in proximity of the pizza.
Now, pizza day for you was on Fridays because our pizza day was Tuesdays.
Mine was Tuesdays as well.
And then Thursdays.
Yeah,
was
I've
hot
heard
dog
that.
day.
It was so weird to me. I'm like, I can't imagine pizzas on a Tuesday. Like as a kid, like Friday was always like it's the end of the week. Like this is your cool day at the end of the month or something.
Yeah, but you think like the volunteers want to come in on their Friday to come hand out pizza to like 6-year-olds? No.
I don't know. I guess because I lived in the boonies when I was a kid. I guess those people are like, well, we got nothing else to do here. So.
Yeah. Well, this has been Pizza Chat brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends.
Does anybody
Exactly,
else really
there we
want
go.
some friggin' pizza right now? Like, God, the craving is real now.
There has never been a life,
I
a moment
wish
in my
I
life
had
where-
some sort of like pizza related advertisement I could just pull out here, but I can't, and I'm not giving them free advertising anyway, so it is what it is. But free advertising goes only so far. It is nearly the end of this year. Obviously, the Game Awards were a couple of weeks ago. They got all of their awards done. So with that, we got to do ours. Although we
The world wants to know.
don't have the same
The world
kind of
wants to
money, so clearly we can't play every single game on the list. So we are just going to have our tailored made lists here. We are going to give you the audience, basically our top 3, and then if we have anything fun, whether it's games that we did outside of the year of 2022, either if we had like a surprise or a disappointment, anything we can come up with, we will give those as well. And then our plan at the end of the show is to actually do a full group review of God of War Ragnarok because Kaylan has now completed the game as well, which means we will also be talking spoilers at one point. But don't worry, we will have a spoiler-free half of the review. And as soon as we get into spoiler territory, we will let you, the audience, know. So if you need to shut the show down, you can do so you don't get spoiled. But that is for later. We are living in the now, and the now is 2022, where it is almost done, and we have played a good chunk of games. And I say a good chunk, meaning I've probably played like maybe 5 or 6 games that maybe came out this year, not counting ones I dropped immediately from Game Pass trials, but you know. So, before we even get into the top 3, how did everybody feel about what they played this year? Do you think this was a better year than the year before? Or especially the last couple of COVID years where there wasn't nearly as much going on?
Oh, definitely. This is probably the year I've played the most like actual current year releases in a long time. Like, because mostly there'd be like 1 or 2, and I feel like I actually played like a good chunk of 2022 games compared to like games that are 5 years old, and I'm just finally catching up.
Yeah, I think the games that we had were good. Like, we had some really big titles come out. Like, it was a good year, especially for Sony. But I felt the thing I felt is that it wasn't so much a constant feed. I felt it was peaks and valleys. So like, you know, we've got some huge games in Elden Ring and Horizon within a week of each other almost, and then a drought for a little while, and then we had God of War come out. Like, the games we had were great, but I think there was a lot of time in between with just dead, not much to play stuff. So,
yeah, I think that's going to be the big story next year, and we'll have a show. I'm assuming we're going to be off next week because of the holidays, but when we come back the following week, I assume. If not, we'll let you guys know either way. But I mean, our next show is going to be looking forward to 2023, and even from what's released already in terms of release dates, 2023 could be a very busy year if all these dates hold, and that's still not even including a bunch of games that could be coming out, and that's even unannounced games as well. So it feels like this might be. I mean, we're hoping this is the last year where there is this like dip in amounts, and we start seeing a much bigger flow, and especially with Microsoft next year, that seems to be a big key for it. Because, I mean, as you saw at the Game Awards this year, Microsoft was all but not there. I mean, Phil Spencer was in the crowd. He wasn't changing T-shirts, though, every 15 minutes, which made me very disappointed, but...
He forgot the tape at home, and he was mad at himself.
Yeah. But, like, I kind of agree in this, too. I agree with both of you. I think this is honestly a better year in terms of the quality of games. I think we still are in that moment, though, of we were missing out a little bit because a lot of things got delayed. A lot of things, you know, even just straight up got canceled. Obviously, we saw with the Knights of the Old Republic remake, for example. So it was a case of there was a lot that could have potentially happened, and then poof, it all disappeared. And thankfully, we still got a couple of big ones, like you said, Horizon, Elden Ring, God of War. And I'm sure you guys maybe have a couple others here. I know I have one other as well that's more of a sleeper. But we definitely had like some really good ones, but it seemed like in terms of quantity, it was still left to be desired. Although Game Pass helped with that, PlayStation Plus helped a little bit with that. Nintendo's been doing a couple of things here and there. So it's not like we were left without anything, but it seems like on an average year, and we'll clearly see that next year, it seemed like it could have used a little bit more to make this really stand out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well,
I blame Xbox.
Yeah, we can blame a lot of things. I mean, we can blame everybody. You know, it's easy to blame somebody else when it has nothing to do with you. We can just pass the buck to anybody because we're not creators. We don't do anything. We just play.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. I blame us.
All right, fine. Fine. We'll go with that. All right, then. Well, we have our top threes to go through. We're going to start from left to right here on our video screen if you're watching on YouTube. So, Kaylan, what was your third best game this year? Who's getting the bronze medal?
It's so hard because I feel like there are 3 games that I could think of that I could put it, like, I want to put in some arrangement. One of them is going to get cut. And it's hard because they all have amazing aspects to them, but they also have drawbacks to them. And unfortunately, I got to cut one of them. And I think I know which one. So for my number 3, I am going to put Elden Ring as my number 3. I am not a Dark Souls person. I am not a Bloodborne person. I've never played one of these games before. I got on Elden Ring just because of the hype train, and I loved it. It was a super fun game. The combat is really fun. But I think there's some design choices that if you're like a Soulsborne player, you kind of accept it, but I don't think are good design choices. So I think some of the aspects that I don't like about the game, I felt that while I think that there's too much hand holding in games in terms of, icons on the map and like, hey, go to check out, here's all the interesting spots and there's nothing else to see. There is an aspect of go and explore in Elden Ring, and that's cool. But I think there's almost too much freedom. Like they've given you too much of a leash to hang yourself. So for me, I think they needed a little bit more guidance. Like the aspect I think of is that for those of you who haven't played, when you start the game, you start off in your starting area. Cool, fine, everything's good. The next area beside it, that's your level 2 area, which is just down to the south. And then immediately beside it is like an area that you are not prepared for at all. And you need to go travel the map for a little while and then come back to it. And I thought that was like a weird choice because there's no indication other than you getting your ass handed to you constantly. But it's Elden Ring. I'm getting my ass handed to me constantly. It's hard for me to distinguish where I'm supposed to be and where I'm not supposed to be at any given time. And that's a partial problem with the difficulty of that game. And I'm totally fine with what it is. It is a difficult game, but there's not necessarily a indication of where I'm supposed to be at what given time or whether I'm under or overpowered. So it's kind of hard there. Also the story, I know there's like a whole lore and the people who love Elden Ring have a lore for it, but there's not. Like, unless like I know that there's something about a ring, it got smashed, you got to collect it. I have no idea who all the characters are and what they're doing. Like, it's not a well-told story, or at least it's not communicated well. So for me, it's the gameplay that carries it, but I never finished it because you get to a point where you get up into like the final stages. I don't think it's a huge spoiler, but you get into like a winter area. It just starts handing your ass to you. Like you get 1-shot, 2-shot killed, and you're doing like barely any damage to the enemies. And I'm just like, nope, I'm out. I'm done with this. And then the exploration's great, but the other problem once again is I'm collecting items. I'm doing a blood build. I want my katanas, my swords, and I'm picking up magical staffs. So I'm wasting a lot of time doing that. The exploration isn't always recognized. There's just not a lot of direction. And when I'm spending my time playing your game with a guide beside me, I feel like you've kind of gone too far in terms of that no hand holding. And so for me, it's a great game. I definitely recommend checking it out, but I would not say it's a game of the year, let alone a perfect game. So for me, it's number 3.
Alrighty, well, I guess that moves on to me. So number 3, it's painful for me that it's only 3 because this was probably the game I look forward to the most coming into this year. But like you said, a lot of the games that are on my list that I had to put on here, I mean, I have a lot to love, and there's also a lot that I have to complain about. And I did talk about this when I did finish the game way back on the show. But number 3 is going to be Horizon Forbidden West. Despite everything that I love about that game, because I really did enjoy the heck out of that game, but there is so much about it that made me go after I was done. And the more I thought about it, the more I went, man, Zero Dawn was so much better. And I think a lot of it is also just like the bias of the first time also helps with just how much you like it, because God of War Ragnarok, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. I mean, we actually will talk about it later, because that's literally the other half of the show when we get to that after this, but it's definitely a case of the game did a lot well and still continued on a lot of the things that I liked about it, but it didn't raise the bar after Zero Dawn. It took the bar and went, okay, this is how high we can go, and then they kind of slightly limboed under it. So like I said, a lot to love about it. I think that the world that they created looks so much better. I liked what they did with kind of like a, dilapidated San Francisco kind of feel to it. I think obviously with the DLC they're now releasing that's going to be based out in Hollywood is a really cool idea. I can't wait to try that out. But for every good thing, if it was, the combat was a little bit better, the world building was better, the story at the beginning I thought was really, really good, and then things started to kind of bore a little bit. There were things that maybe picked up again, if you got to the point where you found essentially a civilization that was kind of modeling themselves after, I can't remember, why am I blanking on the guy's name that created all the machines that did this? You guys remember? The evil dude?
God.
Tim? Was it? Start with a T.
Yeah, Ted something. Or
Ted
Farrow?
Right?
Was it Ted Farrow?
Yeah, Ted Farrow. There we go.
There we go.
So, like, when you get to a civilization that seems to, like, look at him like they're God, it gets a little interesting again. And then as soon as it gets interesting, it takes it away. And that was kind of the big thing with Horizon as a whole. It's like, every single time that you started feeling like, okay, now it's starting to turn again, it just kind of took a step back. And that's kind of how I feel with Horizon, even though that I still rated it really highly, because so much of it was really well done. But it seemed like one of those games that every time it was just about to find its footing and really cement itself, it did something to kind of put it backwards. And again, I put it number 3. That's not to say that it's bad. But in this case, it was just between like the 3 games that I was picking from, it's the one that I'm like, I have the most complaints about. Even though I cannot stress how much I love Aloy, I have no time for any of your bullshit. I enjoyed the shit out of that character. Even though Christopher Judge obviously deserved the award, special nomination to Ashley Birch for just giving the absolute no fucks left to give. I've come here to chew bubblegum to kick ass, and I'm all at a bubblegum level Aloy. I loved it. I just wish that everything else around it could have been just as fun, because there were some parts of it that were great, and then some that were just like, damn, if you just improved this one thing, this could have been so much better. But hey, there's a trilogy for a reason. We'll see if they can make a comeback with that, or if we end up, kind of closing out on an even sour note. But hey, it is what it is.
I hated the side characters in Horizon. Like those companions you get, I absolutely hated them. I found them super annoying. I hated the villains in the game. Like I felt they were underutilized, both, and like some of them were ridiculous. It was like it was one of those games. It was fun to play, but it was exhausting in the sense of like I don't relate, I don't connect to anybody. Like I'm here to just shoot robot dinosaurs, which were super well designed.
Yeah, that part of the game is amazing. It's 10 out of 10 if all you were trying to do is just shoot giant mechanized dinosaurs. If you're looking for story, it's like 7 at best. So when you put those two together, it's like, because I'm not going to say the story was bad. I'm just going to say it wasn't anything more than good.
It's bad. It's a bad like sci-fi channel TV movie.
I won't say it's bad. I was interested in a few things here and there. I'll say that it didn't live up to the potential that Zero Dawn set.
Yeah.
But that's me for number 3. Chris, what do you have?
Well, my number 3 is also Horizon, for almost the exact same of everything you just said. Because I felt like the graphics, obviously, nicer than Zero Dawn, especially the San Francisco area. And I think you really hit the nail on the head when you were like, there was moments of greatness where you could tell the story could have been amazing, and it's like one mission and then it's over and like that was it. And like you're just off doing like nonsense. And I think Kaylan, you said there was underutilized villains, which like, yeah, they had Carrie Ann Moss or whatever who was in it, and she was okay. And then they had Angela fucking Bassett. And like I can't even remember like her talking almost throughout the whole game. Like she had a couple scenes, but like why wasn't that like the most overarching just like villain always on your ass like this is bad shit going down where you actually felt tension the whole time. Like I felt like there was moments that could have been great, or there was like brief moments of greatness and then just like just such disjointed moments in between until maybe something really great would happen. It seemed like, oh, this is going to be really good, and then it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, I felt like the exact basically everything you both just said about Horizon Zero Dawn is Forbidden West is why it ended up in my third place, because I was so that was the game I was most excited for this year. I was more excited for that than God of War, because I was like, Zero Dawn was great. What is this going to be like? Like this is like a PS5 AAA. Like this is going to be amazing. And it was good, and there was moments that were great, and then there were moments where I was like, this is not great. And you know, it was just kind of like still a good game, but definitely not like number one on my list for sure.
I think one of the things that Zero Dawn had that Horizon Forbidden West did not is that mystery, right? Like we wanted to know what happened to people, what was going on, who are these people, and now we know all that stuff. So there's no mystery for us to uncover, and like they didn't put anything that was compelling to replace that.
Well,
Yeah.
and again, without going too far into spoilers for those who maybe somehow haven't gotten around to it yet, because you never know who's owned a PlayStation at this point or not.
It's on
there
PS4.
Definitely is
It has no
with
excuse.
the villains that they had. The idea of what they were, they could have really drawn that out and really told a good story of like why these villains came to be where they were, and you could have told a very interesting story that could have referenced them throughout the game. But it seemed like a lot of the game was you doing stuff in between, while the villains just kind of existed in the ether. Like they'd show up once in a blue moon just to be like, hey, we're here, and by the way, we just killed somebody, and bye, we're gone, we'll see you in another 10 hours after you do another bunch of side questing. And it's like, it could have been so much more. And you say the same thing with Angela Bassett's character, who I've also forgotten the name of. But again, I don't give myself shit for that. That was like 9 months ago. You can't expect me to have a memory for a game that I don't laud as like my favorite game of the year. So go figure. But like every time that you had a character that was really well done, you wouldn't see them very often. Like it was a lot of Aloy walking around talking to useless people that didn't do too much. And it's the problem that I've said before with open world games, where that you really need to find a way to make a lot of the open world side questing interesting, because it's very easy to dilute your main plot if there's too much happening that doesn't add anything. And I think that's been a big part of why a lot of open world games have soured on me lately, because so many of them suffer from that problem, that it takes me out of the main story to the point that I've forgotten some things. And when I go back to these characters, I don't care about them nearly as much as I did when I left them initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why. Oh, go ahead. No, go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that's why like The Witcher 3 is so loved, because The Witcher 3 side quests, it's hard to tell what's a side quest and what's just like part of the main story in a way. Because it's like, yes, you're looking for Ciri, but all of a sudden you go to this castle and there's this 20-hour long freaking side quest kind of thing, but it feels like, wait, was that like a part of the story, or could have that been
they may
skipped?
have nothing to do with the story at all, but it's memorable.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's not even because I know what you're referring to. You're referring to like the Baron quest, which always gets talked about, but it doesn't even have to be as big and compelling as a 20-hour like side quest. I always remember there's like one quest where it's like you're with like a girl who's a ghost or something like that, or a witch or something. And she's just heartbroken, got like stood up by her boyfriend, whatever, fiance. I don't remember all the details. It was a long time ago, but she got stood up. She wants to be reunited, and you reunite them, and she ends up like murdering him because she's pissed at him. And I'm just like, whoa, like that kind of stuff is interesting, where it's not expected, but where it's like, hey, my little brother got attacked by a robot, can you go see if he's okay and rescue him?
Yeah, so much of it's just, hey, this person's been gone for a couple of days, can you see if you can find them? They were last over there. And you go and see that, oh, they died. And you're like, oh, that sucks. I feel really bad for this side character that I've known for 5 minutes, and they just lost their sister or something. Okay.
Yeah, the nameless character who looks like every other character, like it is a situation where I am surprised, and I was going to say this when between me and Chris, and it's funny that he brought the Witcher up. Like, I'm surprised that we are so far out from Witcher 3 and we still have terrible side quests. Like,
Yeah.
that set the benchmark. That am I expecting everyone to put in as much effort as The Witcher? No, but the fact that there's been no sort of impact is kind of funny.
Yeah, it feels like it's becoming more common now that open world games have even less interesting side quests now. It just seems like a lot of it's padding.
Yeah.
It's just
And
bad
again, like
open world
it's
design.
not even a Horizon problem. It is an open world game problem. I mean,
Yes.
look at any major open world game these days. I'm sure when obviously Starfield comes out and many other games like that, they're all going to have the same problem probably.
God of War has me finding fucking flowers. I am the fucking God of War. Kratos, the man who killed Zeus. And I'm fucking looking for flowers. What the fuck?
Hey! That review is later. You keep that venting for later, sir. Unless we're about all,
unless
we're all about to
fuel
talk
for the
about
fire,
God
don't
of War being number 2, because I guess that's also potentially possible here. So with that being said, we got 2 Horizons out of the way. Kaylan, we come back to you. What's your number 2?
God of War, because I have to flowers. No, so honestly, this was one of the toss-ups. I love God of War. It's a good game. It's a great game. Really impressive, but once again, like Elden Ring, I felt it had things that were super strong, things that were great, well done, masterclasses, and then things that were duds. So I think the story is both compelling and underwhelming at the same time. And I'm not going to get into spoilers here, so you guys are totally fine. We'll save those for later. But for a story that is called God of War Ragnarok, I thought it would be a lot more exciting. Like, I felt like there was a lot of buildup versus payoff, or in terms of like what I was coming to expect. So like, I thought the story was great. I wanted to see what would happen next, but I felt like I kept being like, okay, let's go. And I felt like it took a while for the story to kind of pick up, especially for a game as long as it is. Similarly, combat is great. Combat is fun, but it's more God of War 2018 to the fact that even the enemies sort of feel similar to 2018. So it doesn't come across as fresh, right? Comparing it to Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, like, they had a whole swath of new machines for you to fight. I feel like God of War did not, at least to the point that it didn't feel like they were new. Certainly there's more boss fights and everything, which is cool, but I felt I was more driven by the characters of Kratos and Atreus, and what was happening in the story with good gameplay, but nothing groundbreaking for me. So for that, I put it at number 2.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat here. God of War Ragnarok is my number 2, much for the same reasons that I have my complaints with Horizon Forbidden West. God of War is in a similar boat, but the reason that God of War goes above Horizon is because I definitely felt much more emotional attachment to this story compared to Horizon, and we'll get into that with spoilers, but I legitimately teared up once during this game, so that already is one more than Horizon did. And again, more of the same, that, God of War's combat wasn't broken, so don't fix it. Obviously, there were some changes made later on in the game that honestly were really, really fun, and I ended up using more towards the end, and we'll get into that as well. But I felt like they did everything that God of War 2018 did, and just basically up the ante a little bit. And honestly, it hit very, very well everywhere else that I expected it to. But much like Horizon, the story didn't give me the same level by the end that, say, the first game did, where, like, the first game, again, probably for the similar reasons that Zero Dawn has, where it's the newness of it, especially for me, because I didn't really even play the original trilogy that much, because wasn't a big fan of it. But obviously the nuance of, not knowing really much of the world, and obviously I love Norse mythology, so there's also that extra bias to it. So having all that coupled together with a story that did so much with characters that aren't nearly, it's like they didn't even really throw in a Thor or Odin in this game at all, and they still carried a really well-told emotional story in the first game. Now we come up here, now the heavy hitters are in. We got fucking Thor and Odin in here. We got Heimdall in here. All right, shit's gonna get real. And it does, sort of. And then it kind of, it doesn't end terribly, and we'll get into that spoiler-wise when we get to the end of the show, but it definitely didn't live up to, as Kayla mentioned, the expectation of Ragnarok. We expected so much more. And again, God of War obviously won Game of the Year this year. Do I think that's deserved given the competition this year? Yes. I think it's deserved compared to what it was up against. Does it mean that it was what I consider Game of the Year quality? In some years, maybe not, but maybe with what came out this year, you could make a case for it. I think you can. You know, up against Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray. I forget there were 2 other games. Why am I forgetting which other 2 were there? I think Plague Tale was one, and then I think was it Xenoblade Chronicles?
Oh, Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Just to correct you, actually, Adam. Just to correct you, Elden Ring won Game of the Year at the VGAs, not God of War.
Oh, okay, never mind. So
God of War won everything else.
So basically, well, let's
else.
be honest, it was second place then at that point, most likely, given all the awards. See, that's the thing. I saw God of War so many times, I just associated with every award that happens at this point, right?
Yeah.
It won a lot of awards, but not that one.
Was it like, if we assume it's runner-up, was it that material? Yeah, I think it could be. So was it Game of the Year potential? Yes. Did it live up to, would say, like other games would? I wouldn't even say it was like the best game if you put like Zero Dawn and God of War 2018 next to it. So it's just one of those things where, like we said at the top of the show, because there just wasn't nearly as many games as we're used to in one given year, the competition was a little bit lighter. And Ragnarok, while still a very good game, I mean, it's my number 2 game that I played out of all the ones that released this year. It was a case that I think 2023 or 2022 is going to be remembered for, where there was some good highlights, but I don't feel like we had that one like undeniable, we were going to never forget this game. I don't, even Elden Ring, that one Game of the Year, I think if you're in that community, you will not forget about Elden Ring. But if you're anyone outside of it, it's not something that's going to carry for a decade like a lot of other games that would have won Game of the Year over the years have gotten.
Well, I feel like we're not even talking about God of War Ragnarok as much as we were talking about God of War 2018 when that came out. And granted, it changed the whole aspect of who Kratos was in the God of War franchise. So it's hard to make that comparison. But like, I mean, I feel like a lot of these games we're talking about, Horizon, God of War, like they're falling off the radar quickly, right?
Yeah,
I think Elden Ring is
brings
the
up
one
the
that's
idea that
sticking the
like
most.
new IP maybe is the way again, because it seems like people are kind of getting a little bit maybe like just apathetic to the same things over and over again. It could be that.
Yeah,
That is true.
I'm curious to see what Chris's number 2 is.
So I'm going to surprise you both. And my number 2 is God of War. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you guys just like, what the hell? Why do I got to go last? This is horrible.
It's funny.
Well, you're not going to
like,
get my number 1, so I think we're okay on this front.
Oh yeah,
It's
my
funny
number
'cause
1.
we were like, are we gonna have a Game of the Year for like Pixel Play? Like, and we're like, no, our tastes are gonna be so different. Our lists are gonna look so different. And the only difference we've had so far is Elden Ring.
And that's because you're the only one that's played it.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it kind of brings up the point though of like there just wasn't as many games in 2023, so it kind of makes sense that way.
Me too.
True. Yeah, for me, it's the same thing with God of War. Like, I think it's a really good game, like a really good game. It's not like it's filled with bugs or issues or anything like that. The emotional performance of Christopher Judge and the kid who plays Atreus, I don't remember his name. Like
Sonny something, I believe.
Yeah, and, like, they're fantastic. Like, there is actual like movie Oscar friggin' performance behind some of those parts. Like, you know what I mean? Just fantastic when like the story is happening and it's just being explained and given to you and you're seeing the scenes play out. It's amazing. Is the combat fun? Yes. Are the enemies very repetitive and the same as the last game? Yes. I can't think of like one really new enemy that I saw besides some boss fights, obviously, where I was like,
the only new one was like the Aesir, like
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
kind of
The boss fights in this game, fucking phenomenal. Some of them are just fantastic.
Yeah, some of them definitely were. Some of them were like, okay, whatever. But some of them was like, whoa, what the shit? I think that, again, it was trying to do a bit of open world stuff, and it ended up having us collect enough flowers to get the flower trophy, and I needed the friggin' platinum, so I got every
I'm working on
damn
it
flower.
now, and I'm just sick and tired of it.
Yeah,
but I'm so close to it, but like I'm
Yeah.
so
I
close
don't
that
feel
there's no
bad
point
for
putting-
you at all. You didn't have to platinum games, but you're the
Yes,
ones
you
that
do.
got to do it. That's your own fault.
PlayStation
I'll
does
sit
a
here with a
recap on
bunch
the end
of
of the year.
30 to 60% completions, and I'm fat and happy.
Well, I was not fat and happy, so I had to go and get all my freaking trophies. And I did it with Horizon. I did it with this. I'll do it with everything going forward. But yeah, like I don't know, it just like the side stuff. A lot of it just felt unnecessary. It's like just to lengthen the game and put a trophy associated with it to show who's willing to put the extra 5 hours into the game that feels like 15 hours, even though it's only 5. Some of the side stuff though, like obviously like the Valkyrie style fights and stuff, those can be fun. Some of them were like really freaking hard. I know the last game it was tough, but the last one felt like just being precise. Like as long as you are precise and you know when to parry, you know when to block, you know when to roll, you know when to do this, like you could do it. And I did it. And I felt like a god of war when I did it. This one, I felt like some of those berserker fights, they were like, oh, it's one. Just kidding. It's 3 of them. And it was just like, this isn't just like block and parry at the appropriate time because behind you is going to be 2 people and the camera can't see all of them and they're going to cheap shot you in the back. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's the different kind of side quests that
I'm glad you
weren't
let me
as
know about
great.
that. I didn't
Well,
know that one
you've got
existed.
Mimir
I'm so
there
glad
who's-
I didn't keep doing them.
You've got Mimir behind you who's like, look out, brother, behind you.
Yeah. My
Like,
brother.
thanks, Mimir.
Yeah, Mimir. Although
Like,
I do
if
love
you had
Mimir.
some time, do you have like some eye laser beams or something you could use to try to help me out here?
He does.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think if you're going to do those really hard fights, they have to be one-on-one. Like that's the only way that it feels fair enough because you can just lock onto that enemy and you're always seeing them and it's all about like reading their moves. When there's 2 other ones behind you, like there's nothing you can do. Like you're
Well, that's what made
screwed.
the
Like,
Valkyrie fight so good. Like the one that everybody notoriously said was so hard, the one on top of the volcano in Muspelheim. I fucking love that one because it's hard as shit and it's tense. So when you finally
Yes.
get through it, it feels fantastic. Whereas the Berserker fights, I think I did 3 of them before I went, this is stupid. I'm not doing this. Whatever's at the end of this can't be worth it.
I just lowered the difficulty to like the.
I was playing on the easiest difficulty. That's how
then you
friggin'
just
hard
need-
those are.
And you just need to get good.
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I did them
Nope.
on normal and I wanted to die.
No,
sorry,
you were dying.
Balanced. Fuck you, God of War. You don't know
No,
what
no, you
balanced
were
is.
dying. You didn't hope to. You were.
Oh, I died like 715
No,
times. It
as
was
soon
ridiculous.
as soon as I finish the main story, I'm like, difficulty goes down to baby. Let's go.
Yeah. But yeah, I just felt like the side stuff wasn't as interesting. Like there wasn't just the Valkyrie fights like one after the other, which was a lot of fun in the last game. Collecting flowers and recipe ingredients or I don't know, like there's all these like stupid side quests that weren't as great. They weren't too long and I needed to do them for the trophy, but like I still wish they just really weren't there.
I hate, for me, the side quest, the problems that bug me with the side quest is the scavenger hunt stuff and the fact that it's not
Yeah.
like I was going through Vanaheim and it's like it's a huge map and it takes a long time to navigate and I'm like trying to figure out where everything is and it's just like the amount of scavenger hunting that they have is just ridiculous. Like I don't want to go
Yeah.
traverse your map to look for things.
Yeah, same. And
Scavenger hunts in open worlds need to die.
they need to die. They need to go away.
Well, we can
Completely.
talk about all of that once we finish doing our top 3. I know, like, literally our
I feel like
entire
we've done
number
it.
2 was God of War Ragnarok, so we kind of just ended up half reviewing the game now. But hey, we'll get to more of that in a minute. But now we are at the creme de la creme, the number 1. Obviously, before we do that, each of us is going to get the chance to talk about like any honorable mentions we have outside of that. So, Kaylan, the floor is yours for your number 1 game of the year and anything else in between that you gotta quickly shout out there.
Okay, so I'll start with the honorable mention / weird awards. I'm gonna go with game that was most disappointing, and that's not necessarily it was a bad game, but just my hype level versus what came out was Sifu. I played Sifu, and that game looked super cool. Definitely not for me. Like it is a true fighting game. I initially was put off by it because of the difficulty in the permadeath system. I'm not huge on permadeath. Same with like Returnal. That didn't grip me either. And then they're like, hey, we've got an easy mode where like you don't have that aging or process or something, or it's slowed down or something. I'm like, cool. That game is not fun. It's not interesting. Like if you're into combos and all that, cool. If you like Street Fighter, if you like Mortal Kombat, all that, you're gonna like this game. But otherwise, it is not a game for anyone who just wants to get their feet into that genre. So I was excited for it. Got it for my birthday, and I think I played like 3 or 4 levels. And this is the problem: is that if you lower the difficulty, the challenge is gone, and I feel like the game becomes really short. And if you play it difficult, then unless you're super into those kind of games, you're not gonna have fun. So It was one of those ones I think it's kind of disappointing. I hear that they're gonna make a movie, which I don't understand how that game warrants a movie. But yeah, Sifu was one of those hype versus experience disappointing. Are we and then do I do number one, or are we gonna
Yeah,
come
just
back
go
and
straight to
circle
your
back?
number one. You get all
Okay,
your little
number
honorable mentions
one.
in, and then you can do your number
You
one.
guys have heard me talking about it pretty much since I played it. Game of the year for me is Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb, such a good game. Talking about games that probably came with very little hype and then just came out and dominated. Cult of the Lamb is fantastic. It is hilarious. Just the juxtaposition of what you're doing, like you are playing an Animal Crossing-esque game, kind of Stardew Valley-esque in the sense that you're managing a little society, but then you go into like these little dungeon combat areas that are roguelites. But like you're a cult and you will sacrifice your followers for the sake of just yourself. And like it's just so much fun playing that game, and like the humor, what you're doing, the juxtaposition, it's great. Combat is great. I feel like the game is very fair. And I think I had like there's a little bit of stuttering here and there. It's a smaller indie game, but that game is worth full price. And I'm not the biggest like indie person. I'm not like advocating for it at any given time, but this game is so good. Like there's no game I can think of that I was playing that I thought of more, and I still think of today. So yeah, if you haven't played Cult of the Lamb, give it a shot. Yeah, shout out to the new Wool Order.
Yeah,
End of the year for me.
You still got to start working on those T-shirts, man, before somebody takes that idea from you.
They can take it. It's good. They can make their own shirts. If they make one, just send me one. New Wool Order.
And a pizza.
And a pizza.
Yeah, don't forget the pizza. All right, so for me, I'm going to get a quick couple of honorable mentions out. So my biggest disappointment was Stray, just because that was a game that got a lot of hype around it, and I played, I want to say about an hour of it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm sure a lot of people enjoy it. It's just not for me, because I don't need to play another game about aloneness and solitude and despair. I'm like, guys, can we stop making games that are depressing all the time? Can we have like one game with a cat where it's actually fun, please?
I think the cat would be happy though to be alone, wouldn't it?
I know it gives you a meow button, and that's progress, but come on, I could have asked for more. My biggest surprise was the fact that I got back into Destiny 2 with the Witch Queen DLC this year, and now I'm like almost completely fully back. I'm not like hardcore into it anymore, but now I'm keeping up with it weekly. So like I'm almost raiding every single week now, so that was surprising. And then in terms of things that didn't come out this year, or that came in the past that I finally got around to, without question, there were some bangers that I got around to this year that were fantastic. Deathloop, obviously, I got around to, which was
2021 game of the year.
Eat some crow on it. I knew I was going to eat crow when everybody else was liking that game, and I'm not ashamed to say that I was super wrong about it, and I hope the same comes when Hogwarts Legacy comes out, because I've said the same thing too. I want to be wrong about how bad that game's going to be. Also, Life is Strange 2 Colors I played this year. Fucking amazing game. I love the first one, didn't like the second one. True Colors is honestly now my favorite. I fucking love that game.
Yeah.
The fact that literally one of the chapters is like half of that chapter is a LARP, which is amazing, and they turned it almost into a JRPG for a moment, so it's great. I fucking love that game. But my favorite game that I played that didn't come out this year was The Artful Escape. Without question, that game was a phenomenal art piece. I usually, put my nose up to games like that, but when it's going to be a psychedelic, like, hard rock fucking adventure, okay, fine. You got my attention with crazy-ass, like, sci-fi guitar solos. I'm in. All right. And that game was tremendous. But my number one game that came out this year, and I'm so fucking glad that I finished this game on the weekend, because it gave me something to put above God of War and Horizon, because, don't get me wrong, like I said, they're great games. But I had so much to complain about with both of them that I didn't feel great about having to list one of them as my favorite game of the year. And thankfully, I found a game on Game Pass recently that I absolutely adore. And maybe I'll review it on the show next time when we get around to that and I can do a full review of it. But if you have Game Pass right now, you need to play Eastward. That just got released out on Game Pass.
Oh, yeah.
It is
that's
kind of like a Chrono Trigger-esque, like similar to what Crosscode was in terms of like, that kind of like Super Nintendo, like sort of graphical style, where it's a game of, it's like Link to the Past-ish sort of as well in terms of its combat. And what it is that when I do review it, I'll talk so much more about it and gush up to the frickin' moon about it. It is one of the most charming, adorable games I have played in such a long time that I was smiling consistently from ear to ear in terms of how well the music is so whimsical and conveys its quirkiness. The graphics convey it. Like, the characters in these kind of games generally don't have a lot of facial expressions. They are so expressive in this game, and I wish a lot of games do this going forward instead of it just being like the couple of poses that you see most sprite characters get. They really emote so much in this game. And then the combat is so solid for doing so much with so little. There's only a few number of weapons, and with just it's two characters that you switch in between, and they both have their different little quirks to them. And the puzzles are really well done too, that actually use both characters' powers correctly as well. So you have them split off and do separate parts to try to get through that room together. The biggest thing about it is that even with all that whimsical quirkiness, it hit me so goddamn hard in one specific chapter that I legitimately don't do this often, where I was rushing to get through an area to be like, please, no, this person, no, not this person. I had that moment. And that's so rare because most of the time you know when the death is coming for somebody generally. It's pretty well told most of the time. Or it's like a sudden shocker and you just have to deal with it then. So there's both ways. There's either the long game or there's the, oh shit, it just happened, what now? This one was like, you're pretty sure, but it's not guaranteed. So you have that moment of like, no. And you slowly work your way to that. And the game does so much with it. It even has a mini game that's like a roguelite, like Dragon Quest game. It's super, super fun too. God, this game did everything right. And I can't wait to give a full review of that at some point, probably on the next show. But that is my game of the year without question. And I see your hand raised, Kaylan. People on the video can't see it, but I see it. What do you want to say?
So this game came up with a conversation with another one of my friends, and they sold it to me as Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past meets The Last of Us. Is that a fair comparison?
In terms of the fact that the world takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, yes, I can see the understanding of it being
but
The
then
Last
a lot,
of Us.
like,
it also is like an older guy with like an adopted daughter, so it does have a lot of those things. It is not nearly as depressing though. So
no, but yeah, I was kind of curious because like I think this might be the game I play over the holidays.
I strongly suggest to both. I think both of you would really enjoy this game, and I think I'm gonna. It actually does. I will say there are points where I think there's one chapter they could have done without that kind of made the game feel a little bit longer. So I started to rush through a little bit to try to get to the end because I did want to finish this before this show too, because I really wanted to say that I finished a game that's my game of the year, but. I would say like if it's about 20 hours if you don't spend too much time like just randomly doing other shit. Although the side like roguelike Dragon Quest I was telling you about, I never finished it because it's actually really goddamn difficult to beat because it's on a timer. So you only have so much time before you have to grind yourself out and get yourself ready for the final boss that kicks your ass. I tried between 5 and 7 different times and never was able to do it. And I said, I want to finish this, but I really need to finish this game. So I'm sorry I got to skip you. But even that was really good because it wasn't unfair. It was just you had to maximize your time.
Cool.
But in terms of like just the main part of the game, fucking loved it. And I can still hear some of the music in my ear right now because it's so easily catchy. So yeah, both of you should play that at some point. Also, your hand is up too, Chris.
Q&A section.
Q&A. Did I hear you reference Chrono Trigger, Last of Us, Dragon Quest, Legend of Zelda? What else in there? Was that it? And I think like just Super Nintendo in general?
Yeah, like it's definitely got a Super Nintendo graphics vibe to it. The combat, I would say, is very much linked to the past in how it plays. There's a bit of like Chrono Trigger in terms of like the way that I guess like the traversal runs. So, because I kind of got that vibe out of it too. And then, yeah, I think the Last of Us connection that Kaylan's friend made kind of makes sense now in retrospect, even though I haven't played too much of it. But I can see the similarities there. But I would say the core of it is it's post-apocalyptic Link to the Past, I think is the best way of looking at it.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, I know, right?
That was it. Like, wow. My game of the year sucks. Like,
can I just change it to this one?
Yeah. Can I change my answer?
It's mine.
Yeah,
we finally have a section that I think all of us have different answers. Let's fucking keep it that way.
So it's funny because like I was thinking that we were only doing like one sort of goofy sort of random award, but this was actually the one that I had, which was like my backlog catalog award, and that was going to be Eastward was the one I want to play. So
Oh.
yeah, so
And,
it was
I'm
supposed to be
really
Legend-
glad that I
Legend
chose
Zelda.
that because I'm playing another one called Chain Echoes right now that also came out on Game Pass recently. That's also a JRPG, and that one's actually turning out to be pretty nice as well. So we'll see how that goes in the new year when I hopefully finish up with that game. But yeah,
Wait.
Eastward came out of nowhere. I just thought it looked cool because the intro cinematic is almost kind of Gurren Lagann, like the anime. It kind of has that feel to it. When I first saw the trailer, I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh,
you
this
see, you're
looks
saying
kind of
anime.
neat."
You're saying anime now. That's dipping it.
It's
I'm
not
losing.
gonna kill
You're
you.
losing
It's
me.
like yeah. Shut your goddamn friggin' normie mouth over there.
Normie mouth.
But like even just the trailer alone got my attention, so I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything other than just grinding Destiny. Let's do something else just to kind of take some of this time out. And after the first chapter, I went, son of a bitch, this is really good.
Yeah, I think you've sold me.
And
For,
it has
like,
that
what I'm gonna
moment
be
too,
doing
where
over
like
the
I
the
literally
beginning
have
of
it
the
open on my
game,
screen right now to buy.
you know that moment of like, oh my god, like that moment of Final Fantasy VII where you finally get out of Midgard. This game has that feeling too, where you finally have that. Oh shit, there's more to this world than this place. Oh no, this is gonna be crazy.
Oh no, but also so yes.
But I've talked enough about that before I possibly do a review later on with this. So Chris, what any special awards you got before your number one?
Yeah, I definitely do. So one of the ones that you'd kind of suggested was biggest disappointment. And when I was trying to think of a game that I was disappointed in, first, I didn't actually play one game. I think I was like overly disappointed in, like to the point where I would like put it in that category. However, I did come up with the sentence of Xbox's fucking 0 games. So that's what I'm disappointed
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
That's
If
the
it wasn't for
game
Game
I'm
Pass with all the
disappointed in.
indie stuff, like
Yeah.
there just wasn't much.
Like Game Pass was amazing the whole year, but it wasn't because of Xbox. It was just everybody else putting their games on.
Yeah, it's
Game
all the
Pass.
money that they spent to get other things
Yeah,
on that platform.
Yeah, so
think, like,
congratulations.
Is the only
Okay.
exclusive that they got this year? Correct me if I'm wrong, but is the only one that they have was High on Life?
Yeah, and I actually just played that a little bit too. And I love it because the humor is great. I don't think I can finish that game. Like the first hour of it was fantastic, and then after it settled in, I'm like, I think I'm already like completely like Rick and Morty'd out of this game.
I love Rick and Morty. I have to play
Because
that.
like, don't get me wrong,
think-
the first like they do like the tutorial section of that game. Everybody needs to play that because it's the fucking best tutorial ever. And like Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon isn't as good as this tutorial level. I
Wow.
fucking love how the tutorial level is written for this game. It's so good. I was dying laughing.
Oh.
It's a little PG-13, like, or maybe even more than that. But then again, so is Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So what's the difference?
Yeah, for sure. So for a couple other games before I get to my number one, a couple shout outs that aren't really in a category other than I loved them and they just didn't make my top 3 was TMNT Shredder's Revenge. I know,
Yeah.
Adam, you were saying you played like 4 hours of it or something. I think I'm like 35 hours into it. And it doesn't take that, like, I mean, because I'm on my like 7th playthrough.
I was
Like,
gonna say, it doesn't take like 5 hours to beat.
Yeah. And it's just because like I played with one group of friends, then I went to like my brother-in-law's house who has Game Pass and I was like, you have to play this. We played through it and beat it like beginning to end in one sitting. And then I would like play with friends on a Thursday night or something. And it's like, oh, let's play this. Play through and beat it again. Like I've beaten that game so much that a couple of the characters are actually maxed out. Like I'm like a
It's
level
so
10
good.
Splinter and a level 10 like April O'Neil too or something. Like I just like would pick characters and just have the best time with it. So that was such a good game. Another shout out for me was Tunic. I know some people love this, some people didn't, but
Okay.
everybody can appreciate Tunic for like it looks like a Legend of Zelda and it's adorable and it has amazing music and all that. It was hard as shit. It turns out it's actually like a Dark Souls game, but I beat that. I found accessibility options near the end where you can actually just like turn off a bunch of stuff and turn on God mode. And I was like, if I'm gonna finish the last like 3 hours of this, I need it. But still, the game was like beautiful, and that instruction manual being like something you find within the game, like an old NES instruction manual, that like melted my heart when I saw that. I cared more about finding that than like anything else in the game. It was so good. And then I guess I've got also my biggest surprise and best of 20 a game that I beat that wasn't from 2022 I beat Mass Effect for the first time, the first game. I'd never played Mass Effect before. Adam was like, you need to play the Legendary Edition. So I started. And then, holy shit, like Mass Effect? How did I not play Mass Effect in my life? Why?
So you've only
What
gotten
the
the
hell?
first one done then so far?
Only the first one. And I
Okay.
I have it installed, ready to play the second one. It's just
And if
my
you like
backlog.
one as much as it sounds like you do, oh, get ready for 2. Oh,
Yeah,
Disagree.
Disagree.
I played Mass Effect 1, I really liked it, and then I played Mass Effect 2, and I did not like it. I quit halfway through because I just got sick and tired of the companions quests. Like I feel like they kind of dropped the main story for, hey, do these random favors for these people, and I kind of got burnt out on that.
I'm gonna be so sad if Chris comes back and says, actually, I didn't like 2 that much. I'd be like, no!
What's happening?
I'm good. So now that it's like free through PlayStation, whatever, I'm going to give it another shot and see if I can.
Nice.
get
Do
into
it.
You know, with all
but-
the DLC too, like again, having something like I think we've talked about this not too long
Oh,
ago.
Adam,
I think
the
one
problem
of our
wasn't
last
that
shows.
there wasn't enough content. It was too much content. I don't think the DLCs
Well, yeah,
are
if
going
you,
to
if
save
you can
it.
pick and choose the stuff you want, like I said, Lair of the Shadow Brokers to this day, I think is one of the best DLCs they ever made. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show too.
Yeah, I remember you
So
talking
I'm
about
not going to go too deep into that already because I think everybody's like, yeah, we know you like Mass Effect, thanks. I'm so glad that you finished one of them.
Yes, and I can't wait to play more. My biggest surprise, which is also kind of like another one that I wanted to put in my top for this year, but it like I don't know if it counts that it came out for this year, is The Last of Us Part 1. Because it is a remake and it did come out this year, but like I don't know if it counts as it came out for this year. But that is my biggest surprise of this year, because I did not expect to love The Last of Us as much as I did. I'd played a little bit the version that's on PS Now, which I think may have been the PS3 version.
Chris,
I think-
I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give this to you. If this is your first time playing The Last of Us, I think you're allowed to put it on your list because it's
Okay.
your first time playing. I don't think I could put it because it's like my 4th time playing. But
I mean,
your first- if you
technically
played
that
Last of Us
remake
for the
came
first time
out.
in
That
22.
remaster came out this year, so I guess it technically counts.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to give it to you is if this is the first time that you've played The Last of Us, you can put it on a list.
Okay. Well, it is.
You don't have to change
It
it.
is. It's like my game of the year, but that isn't my game of the year because
Fair
I
enough.
wasn't sure.
It's
But
such
that
a good
game blew me away because like I played all the Uncharted games, so I know what Naughty Dog's all about. I played a little bit of the game, but it was like streamed over my PC. I didn't have a PlayStation at the time, using PS Now, and it was the PS3 version, and I was like liking it. And it was only because I watched a YouTube video showing like the PS3 versus the remaster versus the remake in graphics. I was like, well, fuck, if I ever was going to go back, I can never now unsee what I just saw with this remake. And holy crap, like that was one of those games that I played it and then like I finished it and I was like, what just happened? Like I didn't even put down the controller
You have
for
to
like
sit and
10
think
hours
for
at a
second,
time.
right? You have
Yeah.
to sit and think. You're like, whoa. Guys, we are less than a month away from the Last of Us HBO show.
Oh, I cannot wait for that. It's the first time I'm so excited for a TV show in like years at this point.
No.
Like holy
Yeah, I'm
crap.
I'm not gonna watch it, but I'm so happy that people are like super stoked about that shit. So
Why
Yeah,
can't
you
you
just-
like nice things, Adam?
Just tape your
I
eyes
do
open.
like nice things. It just doesn't mean that I have to watch them all.
But out of all of those, you know, honorable mentions, my game of the year that I finally settled on, this was big. This was a whole debate in my head. I finally did settle on Plague Tale Requiem. Like I couldn't not put it there. Is it like as technically sound as say like the God of War game or anything? No. Like they couldn't even get it to run past the 30 FPS on the consoles and everything. But when you play it, it's like you see how much they're pushing and it's like I get it now. In the first game on screen at any one time, I think it was 3,000 rats you'd see and it's like a lot. That felt like a lot. That used to feel like a lot. And in this game, they turned it up to 100,000 individual rats on screen at a time. And like I know some of these scenes, I will never unsee them, where there is that many freaking rats. And like you think like, oh, it's just like in the background, it's like they're probably not individual. No. They're all individual and you can see it and like you'll do something and 3 of them will react and go this way and the other 99,997 go this way. And it's like, what the hell is going on? Like you can see why it could only be 30 FPS. No PS4 version, like had to be the new consoles only. But it wasn't just that. First, yeah, it looked beautiful, but the story, the emotions, like when that game ended, I had to like sit back on my couch and just like be for 10 minutes. I just had to be. Like I couldn't do anything, couldn't text people, I couldn't be happy, I couldn't be sad, I could do nothing. Like I just needed to let the real world sink back in because of just and like I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's just so emotionally heavy. Like just so
It's a
emotionally
game
heavy.
about the black being in the Black Plague. There's no way it's not gonna be
Yeah.
really dark.
Oh, have either of you played the first one?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I really
I
liked it.
didn't.
And so I was actually going to ask you, like, because we talked about Horizon, we talked about God of War, and sort of the sequel-itis and not feeling fresh. This is a game when they announced it, when I was looking at trailers, felt like it was the epitome of sequel-itis. Like, we've seen this all before. There's no mystery. Like, do they fix that a little bit, or does it just feel like more of Plague Tale?
I would say they definitely did fix that. Like this did not feel like just more of the same. They added a couple more things to the like mechanics of the
Yeah.
game, so it's not just the same thing. There was that similarity there, of course. If you wanted to try and play that way, you could. Probably be difficult to only do it that way.
Yeah,
But
because Plague Tale for me like was a lot of just you had your sling and it was not so much about, and I mean it wasn't doing combat or something like that. Like I don't even think you could sneak up and like stab somebody. Like it was literally just using the environment to like take out lights and stuff like that, and using more environmental kills. And I just was like, okay, is it more of that, or do you have a little bit more power and agency in this one?
Yes. So in this one, this is not really a spoiler, more a mechanic. They actually have it where you can find knives like in
Okay.
wood. But the thing is that there are special chests that you can open, and you need a knife to get in there, and it has all the resources to upgrade your gear. And you can only get in there with a knife, or you can save that knife and use it on an enemy and like
So it's
stab
so
it.
it's a real dire resource then.
Yes, I think that's similar to something they did in Last of Us. Actually, was that no?
I don't think it was like that, but Last of Us always had that idea that like you could get hand to hand, like melee was an option, but ammo, at least in the early part of the game, was very scarce. Like
Yeah,
you could use it if you wanted to, but you did not have enough for every. I mean, maybe you did. I'm not a. Maybe they like were smart about it or something. But you always felt like you had little less than what you actually need. So firing a gun became a I need to do this
yes.
aspect.
In this, they actually tied the difficulty. One of the things was to how many of those knives you would find in the environment. So it wasn't where no matter what difficulty you're playing on, it was always there. If you're on hard, there's only like 5 knives found throughout the whole game. But if you have it and you're able to sneak up on somebody, you can melee them, take them out one hit. But then you lose your knife. And then you come up to a resource chest that you could open and upgrade your gear and get all these resources. But now you don't have your knife. Lower difficulties, a little bit more knives, but even then, even if you read any of the like achievement guides and stuff like that, it was like, do not use your knives on any enemies because you need to open every resource chest for this achievement and stuff. And like, there's just enough, like with like a couple left over on the easiest difficulty. And then as soon as you go up from that, you couldn't even open every chest if you wanted to. So they really do kind of give you the option, and you actually level up in this game based on your play style. So you've got like the stealth, the melee, and then using like alchemy, because it's like lighting somebody on fire or doing this, covering someone in oil, and then they'll come at and run near a fire and they'll catch on fire, or this will happen. And that, like, there's the different alchemy things you can do with your sling. It's no longer just fling a rock. There's a bunch of stuff you can actually do to the environment now. But you could go to an area and it's up to you. Do you want to try and sneak your way through it? Do you want to just all out try and attack and survive using your sling and other stuff? Or do you want to try and like use your alchemy and like light this guy over here on fire, cause this guy to start sparking, throw the goo on this guy that attracts rats to him, like all that different kind of stuff. So there was a lot more options in the gameplay this time. Definitely,
Cool.
for sure. Yeah, the gameplay was great, but it was definitely the story and the emotions behind everything. There was also collectibles in the game, but at no point did you have to get them. They were just like neat little bits of lore that you could get along the way. And it's not like, open world side quests and all that. There's none of that. Like, it was a linear game that would just like, you'd hit a spot like a mine and it would be open, and it's kind of like you got to get through it. But at no point did you have like the open worldness, the side quests, all that kind of stuff. Just if you want to collect the things along the way, you can. But it's there for an achievement, or if you just want the lore. It didn't really do anything beyond that. But yeah, like you'd get to a town and you'd see this big, beautiful, amazing town and it'd be great. And then you'd get to an area where it's just like in a sewer and there's rats and stuff. And you're like, oh my God. And then it just becomes like incredibly overwhelming. And then you'll be here on a ship and then you'll be there. Like it's just this one epic long story that is just so emotionally difficult to get through. That was kind of the first game. This one was just like, oh, you thought you felt pain before, and it's just like they put a shiv in you and then make you play the game because it was just that much more. Yeah, definitely my game of the year.
Awesome.
Well, with that, so we know it's official now. According to the PixelPlay Podcast, God of War Ragnarok, only number 2, no matter what. De facto number 2 game of the year. Whereas your 3 games, according to us, that you should be playing, Kaylan says Cult of the Lamb. I say Eastward. Chris says A Plague Tale Requiem. So get on it. But speaking of God of War, it's that time. Now, we did say a bunch of things already when we were talking about it during our number 2 section here for our Game of the Year. So we won't spend too much more time on the non-spoiler in the interest of this podcast not going on for like 2 hours. So we'll do any more story-related stuff we'll do in our spoiler section. So we'll finish off just talking about things related in terms of the gameplay, in terms of how the world's developed, in terms of like, you know, I mean, the biggest thing I'll start off with is, and Chris mentioned it too, I think a big reason why a lot of people were so high on this game when it first came out is just the sheer amazement that was a game that came out almost bug-free in AAA, which is so freaking rare, which is sad these days.
Yeah, I only had one bug the whole game. I went to look at the boat to go get back in it. It was gone, and it was in the sky.
Yeah, I've had a couple pop-ins and stuff, and like a couple times where like a character's body will sort of like disappear a little bit. But I'm at the end of the game doing trophy hunting and stuff, so like I don't care at this point.
Yeah, like it really is a game that feels like this is what AAA games should be upon release every single time. Like,
yeah, like they actually tested
indie games, yeah, like indie games you can give credit because, you know, they don't have nearly as much money most of the time, but the kind of money that's being spent on these games, like you expect that level of quality every single time. So when it doesn't happen, it's such a disappointment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, to talk about anything non-spoiler related, like I do believe that God of War took the combat system and largely made it the same, but just tweaked a few things here and there to make it better. I mean, more of the moves that you get are a lot better. Atreus and the inclusion of other characters that join your party at some points, they add a nice little extra bit to it.
Oh, I hated them.
Oh yeah?
I hated that. Like, it felt like they were just more work to maintain. Like, Atreus, I felt was somewhat better in their moveset, but like, I felt I could like take it or leave it in terms of what they were doing. Like, I don't find that they have a lot of variety. They weren't doing a lot of damage. Like, they were more just buffs. And I just felt like it was a lot of work to kind of like manage, like, okay, I'm clearly fighting this monster. I'm just swinging, like maybe my camera's not a full on, and I'll be like, okay, now you shoot it. And like my reticle might have been like a little bit to the side. So now they're just shooting the wall. And I'm like, fantastic. Thanks for coming out. Like, I've had times where I'm in combat doing stuff and like I'm in a hard fight and I don't have time to micromanage, like, okay, shoot your arrows, the one thing that you do. And they're just standing there because I haven't given them a command. And I'm like, obviously, I don't want you standing around. I want you shooting at them. So, like, I kind of wish there was even from an accessibility feature, it was just, hey, if you have arrows available, shoot something. Like, just shoot something. I don't care what you're shooting, just shoot something. Rather than just standing around waiting for me to give them command prompts. Like, I think if it was a situation where, hey, I want you to use your special attack, like, sure, have that be a button prompt that I have to control. But for me to just tell you to do your basic attack, I don't really feel like that was worthwhile.
I think what they usually serve to do is they end up taking some of the edge off in the bigger battles, so that way at least you don't have to worry about, you know, 10 like enemies all swarming on you at once. And it does create that illusion of like, you know, like almost somebody's playing with you. Now, most of the time you're not going to notice it because you're too busy focusing on the one thing you're fighting. So you don't notice it as much. So when obviously stuff like what you said happens, it's a little more obvious, but for the most part, it's there to serve as, you know, something to happen while you're focusing on your one bit of action that's happening. And, you know, again, like, I guess it's sort of spoilerish, but like the extra weapon they bring in for this game, I honestly love that more than anything else. I end up using the spear so much more towards the end of the game because I felt like it actually did what I really wanted it to do. It gave me the range that the axe throw generally does, but it gave me that without sacrificing, obviously, losing my weapon.
Yeah.
And also just like the combos that spear creates are just fantastic.
Yeah. I really liked it. I felt like it was a little underpowered until I've gotten into like the late game. Like even I think post credits now it's starting to pay off a bit. But I liked the concept and I was using it quite a bit.
Yeah, it was very, very well done. And I mean, like, we're bearing the biggest lead though. Like in terms of stuff that happens, like the spear is a big one.
Can we just jump into spoilers? Let's just jump into spoilers.
We can in a moment.
I'm just so eager to talk spoilers.
The squirrel is the best thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The squirrel is the best thing.
So fantastic. The angry one especially.
Yeah.
And I think too, like the boss fights, without spoiling anything yet, I think they did a much better job in this game of having like some very unique ones that I think stood out. There are a bunch that I definitely thought, okay, that's what I kind of remember from God of War fights, instead of it being like the same, like, because how many times in the 2018 game do you fight like the same version of like that big troll?
That was the only boss fight.
Yeah, it was like it was so consistent. So like, you know, to have some of the more unique ones that we got in this game, I was really appreciative of. And like I said, like they did everything that God of War 2018 did in terms of like its combat style, and I think they made it better. I think what served a lot of our complaints here was more related to the story, especially towards the end, as we'll probably talk about when we get to spoilers. But Chris, because you haven't really had the chance to say much here yet, do you have anything else before we kind of delve into spoilers?
Non-spoiler? No, I only somehow have spoilers in my head right now.
So at this point, we're all in agreement. Okay, so this is the point where if you're listening to this or watching this, thank you so much. But if you do not want to get spoiled on what happens in terms of the storyline for God of War Ragnarok, and that might even include a little bit of God of War 2018, because I don't know if we'll reference them at all. But if you don't want to get spoiled on stories level stuff in both games, you should be leaving right now. And I'm going to give you...
Look at the headphones, chuck the cell phone.
I'm going to give you, like, I'm going to keep talking here. This is your warning. So in the next, like, 5 seconds, as I finish talking here, you should not be listening to the show. So thank you for checking us out this week. We'll see you on the next show. But if you do not want to be spoiled for Ragnarok, get out.
Get the fuck out.
Please. GTFO.
GTFO.
GTFO. That's a game that's never on sale for a price I want to play because I want to try it. But anyways, I digress. God of War Ragnarok. Kaylan, Chris, it was doing so well. And then as soon as you get to Asgard, what the actual fuck?
Yeah, that's when the game definitely felt like I thought the like last 10 hours or something was going to be Ragnarok. Like it was going to be this ongoing war that you're now in, and it would have been something that took a while. Feels like
it was like
Ragnarok,
one last level that lasted like what, a couple hours with a couple of boss fights, one of which that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, not even. Yeah, like it was God of War. Like Ragnarok, it was like an hour-long war. That was it.
I mean, like the only good part of it is just you had Sindri being the go the fuck away, but I'm here because I need to, save the world from not being destroyed. But fuck you.
Oh, even Sindri was a bummer. Like,
yeah, I had a love-hate with that because like I thought they did a great job in how they treated it in terms of a story. But as someone playing it, I'm like, I fucking get it. You lost your brother, but you already did once. Can we stop rubbing my nose in it? Thank you.
Well, and like the fact that he blames Atreus so much, it's like, how was Atreus supposed to know? Like how was Atreus responsible for this? Like,
it's like we all fell for it.
Yeah.
Also, I hated that. Like that. I have no idea. Like I was blindsided by that switch out, but also it makes no sense.
It was a good swerve for a swerve, but in retrospect, it's like they were telling such a good story of the God of War that didn't have fight in them anymore, and then it was like, lol, just kidding. It's not actually been him the entire time.
But even I didn't like that aspect of Tyr. Like, I didn't like the fact that he was such a like, oh, I don't feel like fighting. The house is being attacked. Dang, I thought
it was interesting because if they had him like already being God of War in Norse mythology when you find him, I think it wouldn't have been as interesting. I thought like it was building to that moment where, all right, he's finally had enough, and now we're gonna see the fucking kick-ass persona as he finally goes, all right, I'm fucking tired of this shit. I'm done. Like, give me my fucking spear, give me my sword, or whatever it was. And
But,
we didn't
like,
get
I
that
think
payoff, which is another reason why that swerve, while it was good in the moment, in retrospect, it was just like, damn it, that could have been so good.
But I think the problem is that we already have that with Kratos, in the sense that Kratos is very much like violence is only violence if necessary. Like, he's given up that idea of revenge. He's like, he doesn't even want to go to war with Odin. So like Kratos as a god of war has already kind of been like, hey, violence is important if we need it, but like we don't, that's not going to be our first resort. We're only going to go to violence if we have to. So I think it would almost been cool to have a juxtaposition where if you have Tyr who's like, fuck yeah, let's go get like revenge and violence, and you have Kratos who's like, no, let's show restraint. Let's only do it if we
I
have
mean, I would
to.
argue that was kind of Atreus playing that role, because Atreus kept wanting to pursue it.
But if you had Atreus going between like his father, who was a god of war and is telling him to show restraint and that, or this new guy who is saying what, you know, Atreus wants to hear, you could have that interesting back and forth between them of which way does Atreus go? Does Atreus follow his father's footsteps in the sense of anger and violence through his new sort of quasi father figure, or does he choose to be different from his father by following, ironically, his biological father?
Yeah, I see that story makes a lot of sense too. I think this is a case of what they were trying to do would have worked if they just followed through, but instead they had to do like the swerve for the sake of a swerve. And it kind of like, even though in the moment it was shocking and it did genuinely surprise me, but now after it's settled, you went, they could have done something else there though. That could have been something completely different.
But the question is because like when Atreus goes to Asgard, does Tyr just leave Sindri's house and no one's like, hey, where the hell's Tyr?
He's sleeping in the broom closet.
Yeah, but no one's ever like, hey, Tyr, do you need anything? You doing all right there, buddy? Like,
Yeah, I think it's
especially
also
when
that bit
Tyr's
of
Somehow
like,
it-
disillusion
like-
of like, okay, at some point Odin had to leave, right?
yeah, can't imagine
Yeah.
those birds are quiet either.
Yeah, that's true. You just there's a crow in here somewhere. A raven.
So like, and talking about Atreus, I hated the Atreus levels. Like when you're playing as Atreus, they were brutal. Like I and this goes back to the combat. Like I find that their combat isn't super effective. It's not super interesting when I have Kratos who is just whipping around swords and axes and just doing damage. To then just be Atreus and just kind of navigating like, I'm shooting my little bow and arrow, like, hiya, like it sucked. It was kind of boring, and I just wanted to get back to Kratos. And I felt like for me, the most interesting aspect of that game was the father-son dynamic between Kratos and Atreus. Even now, you know, playing the game post, and once again we're in the spoiler cast, like I'm rolling with Freya, and I'm like, I just miss my son. Like I just want him to come back and do all this crap with him instead of Freya. But I don't know. I didn't like the parts where you're by yourself as Atreus. Whether it's Asgard, whether it's when you're going to see Freya, when you're in Jotunheim, like I didn't like those. I always dreaded the Atreus sections.
Yeah, I didn't dread them as much, but I definitely did not enjoy them. Like when I would get there, I was like, all right, I just got to get through this. It's probably only an hour, and then I'll be back to the normal game. That's what I thought every single time.
I didn't mind them. I actually kind of enjoyed the dialogue between Atreus and, oh my god, what was the giant girl's name? Not Odin's daughter, or not Thor's daughter, but the
like last living giant girl.
Yeah.
Can't remember her name.
Oh my god, what is her name?
But like you know who I'm talking about. Like I actually in both sections, like with her and then with Thrud as well. Like I actually enjoyed the dialogue a lot in those because I think it told a really good story of like a kid who's just trying to figure out who the fuck he is. Because I mean, here he is, you know, the son of the god of fucking war, but now he knows he's the son of a giant.
By the way,
thank you, Angerboda. But like here he is, the son of a god of war from another goddamn land of mythology. And also the son of a giant, has the name of someone that he doesn't know, but we know as like son of Odin, adopted son of Odin, who is the god of tricks, you know, does all this shit. Like we know him as obviously, you know, Tom fucking Hiddleston, you know, that's going to be a hard one to change. But either way, like we have all of these things with him and he is just trying to fucking understand what the hell that means for him. He's also like thinking that by the prophecies that the giants have foretold for him, that he's supposed to be the one that carries basically the torch for this war that's going to just apparently happened that we never really got to see, but but like I understand like the sections where they're designed to really push his feeling and how he's dealing with things, because a lot of the times when it was him and Kratos together, it's just Kratos telling him, no, stop thinking this way. I need my son. And those were very emotional moments, but it also took away from Atreus's growth. So I think those sections serve to be good ways for him to really show like where he is at in the story. And there were good fillers. Granted, were they good combat sections? I wouldn't say they were great. I didn't mind them as much, but like they weren't as good. Certainly not, because I mean, there's only so much you can do by shooting an arrow and then whacking him with the bow. However, that doesn't break somehow.
I disagree. You need to play The Last of Us. Bow combat can be very fun.
Well, I would not want to waste my time with a really bad game. So, anyways, moving.
Oh. Wow.
But no, like I think a lot of where my disdain for God of War just comes in the fact of like it starts off so well, and like to the point of like the closest I've ever been to crying, like actually crying, was when they put the dead wolf's soul into the giant one. And the like when he didn't speak the name yet, but as soon as I realized what he did, I went, oh shit. And then as soon as he said the name, like I felt like the complete emotion hitting me. And I don't cry much. It's been a long time since I had like a full out like actual like man cry. That's the closest I've been in a long time. And I was like, damn. And I'm like, this game is really hitting the spot. And then it doesn't follow up on that shit by just screwing up Asgard.
Yeah, I think that if the Ragnarok War, like every complaint I have about the game, if the Ragnarok War was bigger, longer, and not just this like 1 hour finale kind of thing.
Yeah,
this would have been my game of the year. Like I think of all the complaints I had, if it just was like literally all the realms go to shit and it's this giant Ragnarok battle that's going on for like the last 5 to 10 hours of the game, like something we've really built up to, and now we're in it, I think I wouldn't really have cared about my little complaints. They really would have been little.
Yeah, like this is something that I was kind of talking with a friend about as well, is that like they talk about like the long winter or the long frost. I forget what they talk about.
Yeah.
But like they're like, oh man, things are going to hell. Things are bad because like Ragnarok's coming. Aside from Midgard being frozen, everything looks fine. Like Sveltenheim looks really quaint and cute. Alfheim looks exactly as it was the last time we were there.
Yeah.
Vanaheim looks like a tropical, like there's nothing to show that like, oh, people's like livelihoods, like people's like worlds are at risk here. Like it doesn't feel like that.
You're just
at
taking
all.
their word for it.
Midgard is the only one that actually looks messed up. Everything else looks fine. And they make a comment like, oh, I guess it affects everything differently. But it's like, everything else looks fine. Like nothing else looks like it's in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. Like the stakes didn't seem existent. Like I'm genuinely shocked how this game decided to finish, because I was so certain that we were going to end this game with Thor and Odin at their peak, ready to, like, war was just starting to break out, and the third game was going to be all of that. That was my expectation. Once about halfway into the game, I'm thinking, okay, no, this isn't going to be the end of the game. We're getting one more, and this is going to be all out fucking chaos. And then as soon as Heimdall went down, I went, oh no, this is it. Oh no, this is going to be all of it. We're finishing this entire game here with everybody getting killed. What the fuck? Because I'm like, Heimdall, they were making such a big deal out of, and then it's done. I'm like, really? That's it?
Hell?
Like, there's no like second fight. Like, I was sure he was going to be like someone you fought a couple of times, and then he's just done. I'm like, you had something else there, guys? What is that all you got?
Yeah, I remember thinking like he could see everything and you could never even touch him. And then in your first battle, like you get the spear and stuff, and that's supposed to confuse him, I guess. I don't know.
You thought somebody would at least bail him out or something, maybe.
Yeah, but like even if you cut, like I didn't think it'd be like, oh, I can kill you now. Like I thought it like, what the hell? Like it still was tough to hit him. Then there was like one cut, and I was thinking like, okay, that's as far as this is gonna go. Like this isn't actually the battle where we just kill him. Now, the way that battle ended with the choking was very emotional, I thought, because you could feel Kratos like he was originally trying to hold back, and all of a sudden you could see that he was almost giving into his rage and his old self coming back, and he went further than he wanted to go. But the actual concept of that god dying and that was the battle and
You
that
could
was
have done
it.
that with somebody else.
Yeah, that could have been in Ragnarok. Like where the hell? Like what the fuck? He gets away,
Also-
and he's a big part of Ragnarok.
Also, I genuinely thought Atreus was going to be the one to kill Heimdall, just based on how like he was constantly nudging Atreus.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more satisfying.
Yeah. So like my issue with like it's the same as yours. Like it's anticlimactic. Like we see Odin, we see Thor at the beginning, and we have an awesome fight with Thor, and then
And
they
it gets bitched
like,
out.
well, they disappear for a huge part of the game, and you don't fight them again, I think, until the very end of the game.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't come across as threatening. They don't come across as like the Aesir don't seem threatening. They don't seem like dicks, other than people telling you, "Oh yeah, these guys are dicks."
Yeah.
But like, there's just the amount that they could have done with it. Like, you could have. I thought we were gonna fight a whole lot more gods. Like, if you think of God of War 3, like I'm looking at a list here. The gods that you kill Poseidon, you kill Perseus, you kill Hades, you kill Helios, you kill Perseus, Hermes, you kill Hercules, you kill Poseidon's princess, Kronos, Hephaestus, Hera, like Deidas. Like there are so many that you kill. Do you need to kill that many in God of War Ragnarok? No. But I think the fact like you could have these gods coming and being like, "Hey, Odin's telling us to put you down." And like even if you have battles with Thor that like come out inconsequential, like it's underwhelming in the
I mean,
sense
shit,
of
you
like
technically killed more in 2018 because you killed what, like 3 of Thor's kids, and as well as Balder. Was it
Yeah.
2 and Balder, I think.
2 and Balder, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, it's
really,
just
you
like
killed about the same amount of gods at that point, because then you kill Heimdall, Thor. Well, actually, technically, you don't even kill Thor.
no. So like and that's the thing. I felt like they didn't come across as threatening. Like Odin, I know Odin's not supposed to be like this threatening person. He's supposed to be like deceiving in the sense of like luring you in.
He was
But
almost
like
playing the role of Loki, weirdly enough, which was interesting.
mhm.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys. I think the fact that it's called Ragnarok and most of it's just them talking about Ragnarok leading up to Ragnarok, and then it's underwhelming. Like you have that huge giant come and fight you at Ragnarok, and then he goes nuts and just starts going after everything. That would have been a wicked fight where you start like climbing him almost like you did Poseidon.
Yeah.
But it's like, nope, they're just like, we got this, thank you. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, you
Like-
see
like
like
everything-
Thor. No, go ahead.
Oh, it's just like everything that you expected to happen, like, or like you hyped yourself up thinking, because you're thinking of past games on what they did, and they never really did that. Like I said, there were some amazing boss fights. Like the Nidhogg fight was fucking fantastic. Like that was a
Yeah.
really good one.
That
But
was
like,
fun.
you know, you have that first fight with Thor, and it's exactly what you think it's going to be. You didn't even think it was going to happen that soon, so that was cool. That you just it starts off with a bang, and you're like, all right, we're kicking. This is gonna be what I have to fight up against over the course of this game. And then you fight him a second time, and it has similar feeling in terms of like, oh god, this is the god of fucking thunder, and then dead. You're just like, that was the one threatening thing I had left. You already bitched him out being like this drunk with, you know, issues, you know, with dad issues and father issues, like being a dad himself. And it's like, you're not threatening anymore. I actually pity you. And when it looked like they were doing the face turn with him, making him, you know, actually maybe be a good guy, which, don't get me wrong, I wasn't going to be against, but then they take that away too, in the same way of like, you know, the whole idea with Tyr, they take that away and just say, oh, actually it was Odin the entire time. Same way with Thor, it's like, oh, Thor's actually might having a change of heart. Oh, that's cool. Nah, just kidding, Odin got rid of him. So it's like anything that, you know, you start gravitating towards and you start attaching to, they kind of just took the rug out from under it.
Yeah. I feel they just almost like stuff was just missing. Like that, like they didn't put it in, or like this game was gonna be a second game, and then somewhere near the end, they're like, we're not gonna do a trilogy. Threw Ragnarok in the end, figured out what to do with everybody real quick, and they were like, all right, cool, we did it.
I feel like they have room to make a third game, and if they do, I'm not even sure I'm interested now. Like, I'll probably still play it because, you know, it's high quality, you expect it. But, like, am I going to be as interested? No, honestly. Like, I'm still interested in what the third Horizon game is going to be because I'm at least curious on what they do with what they've set up. But, like, with this game, I'm like, what do you got left for me to do? Like, they're gone. The fight's over. So, like, what are you going to do? You're going to bring in Hela? Like, what do you got for me now?
I think they said they weren't going to do a trilogy with God of War of this setting. I think they said they were only going to do the two.
To which then my question is, why didn't Ragnarok start sooner? Like, you could have gone without a bunch of the traversing. Or if you were going to have us do traversing from realm to realm, you at the very least could have had, like, something that isn't just an unrelated monster in there.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, it could have been, like, Ragnarok should have... Like, the game length was fine, so either bring Ragnarok in earlier or just make the end of the game, I guess, a bit longer, but like keep it interesting so it doesn't feel too long.
Like, can we argue that Ragnarok was like, what, 10% of the game at best? Like, and that's even being generous?
Oh, very generous, I'd say.
So, like, what, 5%?
Yeah, not even.
So, really, realistically, if this was committed to be the last game in this arc, then it should have been like halfway minimum. We should have been in Ragnarok.
Yeah. Well, like I'm just doing a quick thing. I'm just like looking at Britannica.com and like I just did like a what is Ragnarok, and so they kind of like go through where the story comes from and stuff. And according to the sources, Ragnarok will be preceded by cruel winters and moral chaos. Giants and demons approaching from all points of the compass will attack the gods, who will meet them face death like heroes. The sun will be darkened, the stars will vanish, the earth will sink into the sea. Afterwards, the earth will rise again. The innocents of Baldur will return from the dead, and the host will judge. Whatever. Like. That would be awesome if we had a situation, but like I didn't find that there was a cruel winter.
We saw the long winter. That was about it.
There was no moral chaos, and like it'd be cool to see like giants and demons approaching and like attacking the gods, but also like start getting where like the sun fades and like Earth is sinking. Like see that destruction. Like if you could start seeing like, hey, oh man, like Midgard's falling apart. Like you don't have to have Ragnarok completion, but you could be like, hey, this is going the way we thought it was going to go. We need to stop it so that it'll save it.
Yeah.
And it was underwhelming. Like nothing seemed bad to happen and there was no consequences.
Yeah, and like some of the later stuff too, like the things with Surtur were just like, it just feels like it was thrown in there just to be like, here's the plot device that gets us through to the next part. Because it's like, oh, here's this god that we need like him to become like the embodiment of Ragnarok. And he's like, no, I won't do it. And then 2 minutes later, it's like, fine, I'll do it. It's like...
Yeah.
It felt
and
like
then it shows up and it's useless anyways.
It feels like this should have been a trilogy because it looked like they didn't have enough room to tell the story they wanted to tell and get it done. Because like it feels like they rushed too much to get to the end, and there just wasn't enough there to really cling on to make it feel like it was a big deal because it just happened so fast.
I think it's an issue that like it's not that they couldn't have done it in one, like it's a 30-hour game, like you have enough time there. I think the problem is that they focus too much on the lead up to it, and then anticlimactically Ragnarok was kind of nothing. And I think I don't even have a problem
with the lead up. The lead up was good. It's just they didn't follow through.
The problem is they spent too much time with that lead up that they can't be like, well, we have another 20 hours here of Ragnarok. But I feel like they kind of need to be like, okay, we need to kind of skip through this lead up. And this is why I think a duology made more sense than a trilogy, because I think the game would have been a little bit boring. Like it would have been a little bit dismissive if you have, hey, here's God of War 2018. Here's the one that kind of builds the middle one, and then here's Ragnarok. No one's gonna like the middle one. It'll be kind of bland. But I think they could have done it where it's like, hey, we're gonna get to that Ragnarok. We're gonna get to that destruction, that chaos, like we had with God of War 2018, but God of War 3, where it's like, holy crap, things are falling apart, things are bad. I felt like I could have spent the day, like I could have said, nah, Ragnarok's fine. Let's go collect our flowers, and nothing bad would have happened. Like
yeah, and like they really needed to put more characters in, because you just mentioning all the people that you kill in God of War in the original trilogy, it's like, bro, like you had like no names. Like Sif is completely non-existent in this. Like it feels like can I just say that I think whoever was writing this just loves the Marvel characters for the Norse mythology so much that I think they didn't want to see them look like assholes. Like that's how it almost feels like. It feels like they didn't want people to hate Thor and Sif in them all of a sudden because people are so attached to Marvel's version of it. Because like the only person who really is that much of a prick is Odin and Heimdall. But let's be honest, Heimdall doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, and Odin in Marvel's version of things doesn't really matter that much either, because it's just Anthony Hopkins saying a speech once in a blue moon. But like the characters that we all grow to know, like Thor and Loki and Sif and all of them, like we don't ever really have a reason to hate them. Like, is there ever a point that we want to kill Thor? Not really. Like, you hear stories in the 2018 game about how much of a drunken piece of shit he is, but you don't see it. You're just being told it. So like when you finally get to see him, you're like, he's fucking cool. I like that. And then they made him fucking make you pity him. Like they made you somebody that you're like, I kind of feel bad for him. And that took that luster away. So who do you got left that you want to kill? Heimdall, who's just an annoying, mouthy brat, and Odin, who's being a conniving, dipshit? It's like, that's not enough. You needed more.
Yeah, there's a bunch of options that, they could have done. Like, you could have had a battle with Freya, and then just did, the fake out, or even have her, have a fight with Freyr, and did a fake out again. But, did we ever see Hel?
Hela doesn't exist at all in this.
Yeah, they talk about her, but we never saw Hel.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of people that they could have done if they had to.
I don't know. It feels like they had an idea and then they kind of didn't know what to do with it afterwards when they got to this point. Because like I said, I honestly enjoyed my time with what you say is the lead up. I think it was great. As soon as you get to the point that Odin tips his hand and shows that he's been Tyr the entire time, it kind of just falls flat.
Yeah, because that feels like, this is the moment where we're about to go into a 10-hour, part of the game, the final 10 hours. And instead it's it's the final 45 minutes. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the final
climax
battle
is up here and then it's just done.
Yeah.
The final whole section of the game is you walk in, you're like, okay, everything's going to shit. Oh, all of our portals are already broken. Okay, so it's basically just us. Okay, so I guess we're not seeing anybody else. Sindri shows up for 5 seconds. You're like, okay, hey buddy. Oh, you still hate me? All right, cool. See you later. And then you do a couple more fights and that's it. And it's just I genuinely thought there was going to be so much more to it. I never heard anything about it only being 2 games. So when this happened, I was genuinely surprised because I'm thinking there's no way that this all ends now because you haven't done anything.
Yeah. And there was the Thor versus the World Serpent battle going on in the distance. Why the hell weren't we Atreus just holding onto the back of the World Serpent during that fight or some shit? Where you're up in it. You're just seeing it at a distance.
In the background and
5 seconds and he's hit and blah, blah. Did either of you pick up on the lore from the first game about the World Serpent and the battle with Thor and stuff?
Yeah.
It took me, I only found out about it because when I was going and getting flowers with Freya, she's like, wait a minute, how come this happened? It's the World Serpent actually battled Thor and went back in time, and that's why the World Serpent we knew from the first game is actually the serpent from this game.
Yeah.
They just explained it, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that. So the stupid snake that had the giant put in him was in fact the World Serpent of the first game, but thrown back in time. Cool.
Yeah.
Way to just have that, but just subtle enough that you could I don't know. I wanted to be just in that Thor versus World Serpent fight,
you're
caught
totally
in
right.
it.
There's so many moments that are oh my god, this is a cool moment, and I'm not part of it.
Yeah, it's at a distance while you open doors or something into a pathway of fighting generic enemies.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But
yeah, why did all those gates break? That could have been so cool having everybody from every realm fighting, and instead it's none of them made it. All right.
Yeah.
Just us.
Instead, you have to think about the memories of the 4 other people that survived Freya's brother's party, and they don't get to do it. They don't get to show anything. That's the thing. By the time you get to the end, you know how in most games when a final fight happens, everybody comes together and they all get their little moment to shine, kind of like how Avengers Endgame works or stuff like that. You don't get that in this. None of your friends do anything. You basically show up, the serpent shows up for half a second, Sindri shows up for half a second, and then you just do your thing. It feels like there was nothing on the line. Apparently the whole world was fighting this, except no one was fighting it. It was just you.
Well, think about it for a second. During Ragnarok, you don't even see Asgard. You literally just see Canyon Rock, and then Thor throws you to the Great Hall.
Yeah.
You don't get to traverse Asgard. You don't see.
No, you've got Odin's house and that canyon.
I don't even think you fight another Valkyrie in there, do you? I don't remember, but I don't think you even fight a Valkyrie in there.
No.
In
So
Ragnarok?
you don't even
No.
get that. Like, there's nothing. Like, it really
Yeah, that would have
feels
been
like
a
they
cool like mini boss before the bigger mini boss before the bigger mini boss. Like,
Yeah, I think our biggest complaint is just the last like quarter of the game feels so rushed.
yeah.
Like, it just
There
it
was
didn't
no
it
real
didn't
Ragnarok.
it didn't have time to breathe, and it didn't really come up like with any sort of feeling that leaves us go, okay, that was a good finite ending. Like, we left it going, that's it.
And
Yeah.
it's not even like that's the end of this game. That is the conclusion of the God of War Norse saga. And don't
Yeah.
get
And
me
if
wrong,
they were
I
to do
love
anything else, like if they were like, oh, here's an Atreus game now, I'd be like, nah, pass, maybe.
yeah, I'm not playing as Atreus.
No.
But like for all that we're complaining, like I liked the message of like Kratos kind of accepting the way that like Atreus does things, and like I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
it's the
like the
dad in me. It
father
was just
son
like
story that they tell.
I was
is
like,
good.
oh my god, I need to go hug my son. Like, and he's 3, so like I don't really.
The
Boy.
father son dynamic is great.
Boy.
The Ragnarok part of the game that's in
Yeah.
the fucking title of the game sucks.
Yeah, it just doesn't
Like, I'll
exist.
flat out say it. The Ragnarok part of this game sucks.
Yeah.
And that was the
I
big selling
completely
feature. Like, for me, obviously the father son thing is a big part of it, but my big thing was, all right, we're fucking going after Thor, we're going after Odin, we're gonna have some cool ass fucking fights.
Shit's going down.
Yeah.
And I got that in the first part of the game, and then I was like, all right, we're gonna do this again. The stakes are gonna be even higher. Oh, we missed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, so explain something to me because I don't think like game's long and I forgot, but like Odin at one point comes to his door and he's like, "Hey, you killed my grandsons. Let's leave it. You have your little rock here. You have your little thing. I'll do my thing. You do your thing, and let's just not cross paths again." And Kratos is like, "No." And then the rest of the game, he's like, "We don't need to fight these people. Like, we don't need to go after them." And it's like, what? Like, you literally just told Thor or
It's like,
Odin
bro, you
that,
started it.
like things
Yeah.
are going down. Like, I don't accept your peace offering, but I don't want to start your fight. And it's like, I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I just
Yeah.
I mean,
so
you
which
just
do you
assume
want?
he's saying no because he doesn't trust Odin to actually keep his word.
or he just says no because he just doesn't he is the kind of guy who just doesn't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
also
then he
part
just
of it too.
he's also down for doing whatever Odin want. Like, he's down for what Odin's offering.
Yeah. He says no, and they're like, "Oh, we're not doing peace." He's like, "Oh no, we're totally doing peace. I had to say
I just want
no."
to fuck with him.
Yeah, I just want
Yeah.
to fuck with him.
Yeah.
That guy's the shit. Like,
But like going into like the larger game, like I didn't like the side quests and stuff. Like, this game just I
Mhm.
feel suffers from side quests more so than I think 2018 did.
yes, I would say so because I feel like a lot of the 2018 ones were puzzles and like one-on-one tough battles.
Yeah.
which
I
were
already know that it
interesting.
didn't do as well because I didn't even bother trying the Berserkers. I got like maybe 2 or 3 of them done and then went, no, I'm good.
They weren't even
Valkyries,
my
I was
least
super interested
favorite.
in doing.
Yeah, the Berserkers I felt were too hard and like not as good at all, but they weren't even the side quests that I dreaded. Like, I was like, fuck, this is gonna be really hard and it's gonna take me like 10 tries. But it wasn't like, oh, okay, I found this thing. I have to go find 5 different ingredients in the realms and go find them. Okay, I'll go do that.
They don't
now.
even tell you where they are. Like,
No.
not even like, and not like tell you where they are, but not even like give you a hint of like, hey, might be where they are. Like, it literally could be. And once again, Vanaheim is huge with not a lot of portals that like you have to go find a boat, get to the right port. Like, it's not well done.
Yeah.
I was even
It's
like
a lot.
at
It's a
one
lot of
point-
collecting, which is like, man, if I want to collect so bad, I'll go play Banjo Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64 or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Um,
need this in a God of War game.
Well, even like the part where, and they don't do it all the time, but like the dead spirits that like, I need you to find my cup, and I'm like,
yeah.
I
Oh, there's
guess.
so many. It's like the
It's like,
garden.
I'm the
I
God
was
of
supposed to
fucking
take
War. I don't
care
got
of this
time to
garden.
do something to make your soul rest.
Yeah.
So like I find like this like the side quests, and like even I find a lot of the like the rewards for doing the side quests aren't that great. Like I found my loadout pretty early, and I was just like,
Oh yeah.
well, I've already invested so much in terms of like upgrading this that I'm not going to switch over now and go down to like a level 3 when I have a level 8, pommel or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
See, I think we're understanding the real issue here is Kratos needed to be more like, don't got fucks left to give Aloy. This would have made it so much better.
Yeah, but
Like the
Aloy
Spira
did all
being
the
like,
side quests.
where's my son? He was supposed to be searching for the treasure that we were looking for together. And can you go find him for me? And Aloy would have been like, you fucking kidding? I ain't got time for that.
I do love the fact that when you go treasure hunting, talking about treasure hunting, where it's like, oh, like things this way. It's like, yeah, my dad's just going over to steal stuff. He does that. Like,
Yeah, no, like the
Just
banter
not-
was always great. Like they do a good job of filling in like the dead's time where you're just walking around. Like that's why I do appreciate the game for that, because it
Yeah.
keeps like something going, so it's not just you walking down at the corridor for the 7th time trying to find that one chest.
I heard a couple times, like I one of the problems I find with this, and they had this issue more so I think than when they did last time, is like the stories that they tell, like where Mimir's like, oh, tell me about this, or let me tell you about that. There's less traversal between spots.
Oh yeah,
especially
you
when you're doing,
interrupt
like,
you
level
interrupt his
collecting,
story so much.
Yeah.
which
Yes.
was not something that you had when you were like in Midgard in the first game, because you spent a lot of time
Rowing
on
the
the
boat.
boat.
And,
And I
yeah.
felt like when I was in Vanaheim, like I was spending a lot of time on the boat, that like it made sense for us to have those stories. But there's not that situation in the other one, that it's like a lot
Yeah,
of times
like
I end up hearing, tell me more about this. Okay, not now. Tell me more about this. No, not now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like even I
We'll
think
finish
it
this
was,
another time, brother.
I saw a review. I think it was Yahtzee from Zero Punctuation that even said it's like it's so ridiculous that like you have Mimir telling a story that's like so like entrenched in the lore and such, and then all of a sudden you hear not now, and then you do this intense ass fight where you know there's blood spattered everywhere and you've killed like hundreds and hundreds of things, and then you just turn back around and be like, all right, so back to the story I was telling you, and it
but you know
kind
what?
of takes you out of it.
I'm okay with that, but the problem is that they didn't anticipate that, and they didn't like make new lines, so it's just like repeating the same thing over and over
Yeah.
and over, that is just like, okay, it's breaking that narrative of like, hey, we're three buddies going on a road trip.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
also like you know what you're doing with this game with the open world. Like you should be having these things activate in areas where you know that the player is not going to be in a fight anytime soon.
Or just like, yeah, like you said, like have a situation where they just know that, hey, average time traversing in Midgard is X amount of time. These are the stories we're going to tell in Midgard. Here's the average time spent traversing in wherever. We're going to do the longer stories there, because I was cleaning up collectibles in Midgard, constantly having the stories interrupted, and now I'm in Vanaheim canoeing down the river for 20 minutes, and they're saying nothing because they've already gone through their dialogue
Yeah.
that took them, 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
So, I like the
It's
game,
just
though.
really frustrating. It's like I said, like it's a great game. Like we're still gonna sit here and tell you, like, I mean, obviously all of us put it number 2 for the year. It's just it should have done so much, like for a game that's supposed to be like, well, in this case, the end of all things, it didn't really do anything that great with the end. So it kind of soured it out. Like I think all of us kind of share the same opinion of like we kind of left with a not like a sort of a sour taste in our mouth, just being like, yeah, this wasn't what I was hoping for.
I don't think it's a sour taste. It's just it's an overall, from a story perspective, kind of like, at least for me, it's not that it's like a sour taste, but it's not like the story's compelling, but it's not done well. And what I find really carries it for me is the father-son relationship of Atreus and Kratos. That's what I'm interested in seeing, and also the promise of Ragnarok. But now that I know what Ragnarok is, it's really just the father-son dynamic that compels me to kind of see it through, and like maybe play it again if ever. Like I played 2018 again, and I love that, but I don't know if I'd ever play Ragnarok again.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't.
And if I
Yeah, I
did,
don't think I'd go back to it.
Yeah.
No.
But like I would do it for 2018, because I feel like that's a interesting and more compelling story.
Yeah, and I think it's just a shame that, you know, if this is truly the end of this, you know, this arc, that it didn't end with something that makes us go, man, that just capped off 2 amazing games. Instead, we were like, it was good, but it's like you're just left wanting so much more from it.
Yeah,
I think
felt
it's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the game leading up to Ragnarok was like my game of the year, and then it hit Ragnarok, and it no longer was my game of the year. Like that's how devastating that one moment of just seeing Ragnarok was for me personally.
Going back to what Adam said, like it's a great game, and like it did well in terms of being number 2. But like going back to our list of, and I know we didn't have a perfect, unanimous list, but like it could have been a toss up for me. Like I was going back and forth between God of War, Elden Ring, and Horizon, and any of those could have been done interchangeably. It's not like God of War comes out and is like, that's the game, like that is the pinnacle. Like all of them kind of came out and they're like, oh yeah, they all have their merits. Like I could have rolled the dice on any three and that list would have looked fine. Like it didn't.
Yeah,
it
like
didn't
I
stand
legitimately before Eastward was tossing between Horizon and God of War, and I sat there and went, I can't believe I'm tossing between these two because I actually am so frustrated with both of them.
out.
Because I like them a lot, but I can't get past the fact that both of them did not deliver on the story I thought they were going to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But also, it's still a great game.
Still a great game.
Oh, yeah,
It'll always
still
be
think this is-
number 2.
this is still an essential. Like if you have a PS5, you need this game. But
Yeah, like I think people are
100%.
getting the sense from this episode with what we said. Like we said so much negative about it, but that's because we really wanted this to be good and we love so much of what we played of it it makes these things so much more frustrating. In the same way of like when you're a fan of like a sports team or you're a fan of like anything else outside of games, like even though you know that they're doing really good, everything that they do wrong just hits you that much more because you want them to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
frustrating. And that's the thing with Ragnarok is like, I love this game, but god damn did they screw up a couple of things that just stand out so much.
Yeah. It's weird that I give like 39 hours of a game like a 9.5 out of 10, and then I give the 1 hour of the game like 6 out of 10. Like it's just, yeah.
I'm gonna wrap up my spoiler cast here by quoting Kratos himself. I don't want the game to be sorry. I just want it to be better.
Well, I also will quote, the game can have me when it earns me. But by game, I mean death.
Nice. And I'm not even gonna try, so you know,
I follow.
I should have started off this show by saying I'm gonna quote the great squirrel in God of War Ragnarok that I'm already forgetting, a Ratatosker, I think.
Yeah,
I
something like
think
that.
so. Yeah.
I'm gonna quote the great Ratatosker when the reason that we weren't here last week is because we were fucking busy.
Fuck off, I'm busy.
But yeah, I think that's a good way to cap it off. Like we really did enjoy the game, and it's just the stuff that stands out that really sticks out. So it's kind of a shame, but hey, say la vie. That's the thing about games that are of this quality. You expect so much out of it, and if it does something wrong, it's gonna stand out that much more.
Yeah.
Either way, so I think it's probably safe to say that we won't be here next week because holidays. I mean, I know for me personally, we record normally on Tuesday nights. I'm going to be with family, assuming it's not snowed out on Tuesday, so that's probably not going to happen. So, is it safe to say we'll probably be back the following week after New Year's? Is that probably a safe bet?
Yep, I think so.
I believe
And
so.
then in that case, that'll be our episode where we start looking forward to what 2023 may bring, unless something crazy happens in that time frame. But it's the holiday season. I kind of doubt it.
PS6 is being released. Not even PS5 Pro, just PS6 coming out December 31st. You heard it here, folks.
Will its battery life be as good as the $200 controller? That's a story that I could have mentioned. But hey, I digress. So we're going to cap off the show here. Thank you so much for checking out this. What's probably going to be our longest episode in a while because we had a lot to talk through here. But if you guys enjoyed this, thank you so much. If you are watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more of our stuff. If you're listening on any audio platform like Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please give us a like, give us a follow, give us any sort of rating that you possibly can if it lets you do so. And then if you want to know more about us, including links to our email where you can ask us questions, link to our Discord, any of our social information that you're looking for, you can check out our link tree at linktree/pixelplaypodcast. That is linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast. You guys are all pointing it on the video version. Good job for doing it because I actually pointed in the right direction. I'm getting better at it.
It's under me. I can see it.
There we go. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode. You and everybody that you know, have yourself a happy holiday, whatever you're celebrating in this time. If you are celebrating, have a happy new year because we will not see you until January. So with that being said, y'all take care. Enjoy everything that you're doing in the next little while. And we will see you for 2023 when we look forward to what is shaping up to be a hectic year if it sticks.